For what period of time? I mean, spanning what period of time? Like a year or 3 years or?
I'd have to go back and look at the records. We've only been the owner of record for 2.5 years.
2.5 years, okay. And have they been rented as just night to night, overnights, not by the week, not by the month?
I would say they've been all of the above.
All of the above, okay. Has bed tax been paid on the rentals?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think I mentioned to you last time I was here, we were audited, I think, in the summer, and yeah, we passed that with flying colors.
Good, thank you. In your review, you talked to Mr. Carter's paper addresses. I think you also commented on. If you could just clarify, because a point was made of this, that the situation isn't the same, that you don't feel going to the Coastal Commission at this juncture would get the same result that it did before. Could you synthesize for us and delineate what has changed since the last Coastal Commission comment on this? So you obviously feel that you would get a different result this time. What has changed that would make the Coastal Commission weigh in differently now?
Well, I think the biggest difference is that you've had an independent audit of the data by your staff that shows unequivocally there's been a dramatic increase of residential housing stock. There's been a reduction of vacation rentals, a significant reduction. And in your motion in 1999 that actually went to the Coastal Commission, you recommended that those that freeze remain in effect. So I think those are the main things, right? And then, I mean, that's the tenet of balance that I believe is different. And I also believe the case law that that Jared has brought forward, should wipe out any kind of concern they have around amending the town plan. And I believe, contrary to Leslie's comment about the fact that this is piecemeal planning. The plan clearly lays out a general plan amendment process to change the tables. It's very clear that this is the way it's done. And for 16 years, we've been trying to go through this process the way it's supposed to be done. And I think that this time, with the amount of research and effort that's gone into validating those tables, I believe that's the difference. That's to be able to stand in front of them with that data in hand. And with Jared's legal piece of it, I think those are the biggest differences this time around.
Now, you're referencing an independent audit. Are you referencing the recent work that the planning group did with the town plan data?
That's what I'm referencing.
You're referencing that?
Yes.
And you realize that hasn't come back to the Board of Supervisors for any final analysis or review?
I realize that.
So it isn't policy yet, it's just data from staff?
Correct. I mean, I think they've made some pretty resounding statements around the data, how it was collected, and it's pretty obvious. At some point, someone is going to have to make a decision around that data. You're not going to make everybody happy, whichever way you go. But someday, in the next, hopefully, decade, someone's going to raise their hand and make a decision up there on that board around this data so that we can move on with life. I mean, that's what it comes down to, because staff doesn't feel, I don't think they feel empowered to, they've given you some ideas on what ways things could go, but they need direction from you. It's very obvious. They had a list last time we met of 15 different ways this thing could go. They need some leadership from you all.
Clearly, and it's only been in recent time that data has been compiled. Had one review, and my expectation is, and I don't know, staff could comment, we're expecting to get that back, I think, in a relatively short period of time. They convened the meeting that was referenced in Mendocino, but the data collection, I think, has been pretty much concluded, but it hasn't come back to this board to finalize it. The reason I'm bringing that up is I have a concern with that, because I really have a concern about procedure and that you take things in a proper order. I don't have any specific reason that I'm opposed at all to your application, but I do feel that we need to make it consistent with public policy as good as it is, and I think Mr. Carter did a good job of reviewing the multitude of delays, what that does, where that sets up any applicant, you included in a very difficult process. So I completely support that we need to deal with those tables and get that data issue resolved once and for all, and if the tables are going to change, we certainly need to change them. What I'm looking at, and this is a person who I do respect her work on the Planning Commission, this is a letter the board received, I don't know if you did, from Karen Calvert, and she goes on to say, I support the project itself, and it talks about it requires no construction. She goes forward with basically, I think, a general support of what you're trying to do, which I think a number of the individuals here in the room have spoken to today. But she says one point that I think when you sit in a decision-making role, you absolutely need to pay attention to, and she says, the only reason that I voted to recommend denial of this application is that I felt that the request lacks a firm foundation within the town plan, since the county has neither refuted nor validated the information that was presented 3 years ago. Then she says, I do not feel that it was fair to the applicants to leave them open to yet another court challenge without a solid foundation for their case.
Can I make one comment
Sure,
to that? I mean, I guess
yes.
I would actually turn to Allison at this point, because I unfortunately wasn't able to attend this meeting, where I guess there was all sorts of debate about whether or not their audit of this was correct. And I mean, I would ask you, is there going to be some sort of earth-shattering change to those tables? I mean, are we going to see a huge swing one way or the other? I mean, it appears to me houses have been built. Vacation rentals have been reduced. I mean, those are irrefutable facts. How are you going to change that?
Would you like to have my seat?
I mean,
I think what you're doing is entirely inappropriate.
okay. Well, I asked.
Mr. Supervisor, you're out of order, and I'm going to call you on it. You interrupted the man. He's answering questions from the supervisor. Please show a little respect, and let's continue.
So I guess that would be where I would leave it. If there's going to be some earth-shattering change to the variables, then that's one case that could be made for what you're saying. But I just don't see that, at least what I read in the newspaper and what I heard from people that attended that meeting, you're not going to change houses that went up in Hills Ranch that drastically changed the balance in favor of what we're trying to do here. Those houses are there. Yeah,
no, I understand that. And I'm not even arguing the points or the data or anything. I'm talking about a procedural process that I think is very important as an elected official you need to follow. And I think that Karen Calvert in her letter is trying to hone in on, and she sent us this additional clarifying letter wanting us to know that she doesn't really want to deny what you're trying to do. She's not opposed. She says very clearly, I'm not opposed. I support, she even says. But she's saying if the sequential things have not occurred, she doesn't feel that she could go on record and support it.
Well, I wish she was here, because I think what she was trying to do with that letter was send you all a message that today is the day for you to make sense of the table.
Well, that's not what I got out of it, because today we're looking at your specific
Well, I was at
case,
the
not
planning
table.
meeting when she spoke, and she's been very supportive of this project, and that's what I took away from when the last words out of her mouth when we met, when we walked out of that room, and you can go back and look at the minutes, were, we wish you a lot of luck with the supervisors on this project, and we hope